Hey guys, Matt here. Hope you're all hanging in there. As you can see, I'm working from home, and the one quiet spot I could find in my home is the sauna in our basement. So here I am. I'm giving you a quick update on just some of the things that are going on. And in times like this, when there's uncertainty, oftentimes just education and knowing where we're at can be one of the most helpful things. So, what I want to talk about today is looking at the different types of corrections that we'll see. So, as we probably all know by this point, this is a much bigger thing beyond any sort of financial market at this point. But I am going to stick to talking about the financial side of things. I've had conversations with many of you up to this point, either through text or by phone or in person, about some of the different things that we're facing, but I thought it would be helpful to review the three different types of corrections that we see. So, number one is a systemic failure, and this is similar to what we saw back in 2008 and 9 with the collapse of the banking system. So, we call this the housing crisis, the mortgage crisis. Really, what it was a collapse of our banking system itself, and it was flawed. I always talk about the greatest explanation I've ever actually seen of this is the movie The Big Short, and I'll recommend that over and over again for people to watch to further understand what all was going on at that point. The second kind of correction is cyclical, so it's number 2 right here. Cyclical correction would be if I often go through this with clients, but I'll show on average every 7 years, our economy or any different market will grow at too fast of a pace, and then things need to come back to earth. And that would be an example of a cyclical correction. So everything just grew at such a pace over time. And I'll often pull up a historical chart to show this, and things just come back to earth. That's a natural cycle that we see things go through on a regular basis. And finally, we have number 3, and that appears to be what we're facing here, and that would be an event-driven correction. The most recent example of this, outside of what we're seeing right now, would be 9/11. So there's one specific unpredictable event that will send us off on a trajectory and affect everything else. So as you think further about how COVID-19 and quarantining is having an effect everywhere, it is a perfect example of an event-driven correction. Typically, what we'll see is if we're dealing with something that is either most specifically an event-driven correction, we typically see a very, very sharp and fast downward trend. And then we typically also see a sharp upward trend after that fact. A lot of that depends upon the response of the government and the Federal Reserve after something like that does happen. And just an interesting fact, so 2008 and 9, the Federal Reserve and the government, it took them 7 months to respond, to adjust interest rates, and to put together a stimulus package. And that happened much, much faster this time around, in a matter of days instead of months. So a lot of this will depend upon their response, and when we see some sort of consensus on what that looks like moving forward. So that's a quick lesson for today. That just, again, gives us a perspective on what we are looking at right now.